Welcome to this special video series entitled What No One is Telling You About Enlightenment and Spiritual Awakening. What you'll discover in this video series. First, what enlightenment really is. What enlightenment really isn't. What's blocking you from experiencing, let's call it, the real thing. How to dissolve the blocks. What it's like to, I call it experience with a capital E, which means experiencing the real thing, the truth, with capital T. So what it's like to experience with a capital E, live and breathe it, what's called enlightenment, 24/7. An important note before we dive into the material. This is only the first video in a series that tells an important, complete story. Since you found your way here, you must be what I call a seeker of truth with a capital T, meaning someone who's serious about actually experiencing what's often called enlightenment, spiritual awakening, illumination, mystical consciousness, presence awareness, oneness, and a bunch of other names, especially if you go back in history and look at some of the other spiritual teachings, religious teachings, and other dynamics like that. For purposes of simplicity, I'll be using the word enlightenment only to point to this topic for the rest of the video. There are so many myths and what I call lies, illusions, and stories about what enlightenment is and how to, let's just call it, not the perfect word, but how to achieve it, experience it with a capital E. Here's a key question. What is enlightenment? You can't hit a target if you don't know what it is. And part of the reason that so many people never experience enlightenment or think that they never will, or that it's very far off and unrealistic for them, is because they're not clear on what the target is in the first place. Here are some other key questions. Is enlightenment reserved for a select few? Is it beyond reach until you've had thousands of lifetimes? Is it beyond reach until you've worked off all your karma? Of course, I'm pointing to some of the typical spiritual myths that are out there related to enlightenment here. Must you have a guru or a teacher in order to experience it? How do you get there, meaning into the consistent experience of enlightenment, from here, meaning where you are right now? I can give you truthful, practical, and usable answers to those questions through this video series, and I will. It's not just that I can, I actually will. Why listen to me? Well, in the greater scheme of things, this isn't really all that important. It's what I have to say that's important, not who I am or what my background may be. But I know that this crosses the mind of many people, and so I'm going to sketch a few things here. And then if you want to know more, you certainly can do research on me in Google and find out a lot more. My name is Robert Scheinfeld, and I am the New York Times best-selling author of Busting Loose from the Money Game. But don't let that title fool you. While it is about money and prosperity and abundance from one perspective, it really, bottom line, is about the truth with capital T's and consciousness with a capital C and even enlightenment. It's just that I use money as a gateway to invite people to consider a radically different perspective. I'm also the author of several other best-selling books on spiritual development and transformation. And I'm also the creator of numerous other radically different courses and transformational resources, and I mean that when I say radically different. I was a seeker of truth for more than 3 decades before I had an extraordinary breakthrough at the age of 46. My journey and seeking actually began when I was 12 years old, so that journey really was 34 years before the big breakthrough. My style has always been there, done that, experience it to a very deep degree personally, and then pop up and do what I call a debrief on what I saw and experienced. And the debrief could be a book, it could be a course, it could be a live event, it could be a coaching program, whatever it is. But it's always been there myself, done that myself, experience it to a very deep degree personally myself, then pop up and do a debrief on something that I had such a deep degree of personal experience with. I've been writing, designing programs, sharing, and teaching at the time of this recording for more than 15 years. I'm often referred to as the wild man of spiritual development or personal development because of my dynamite-the-box ideas and strategies. Now, you've no doubt heard the term thinking outside the box, which means being innovative and creative and looking at things differently. But I call it dynamite the box because what I share in what's called the teachings generally goes so far beyond just thinking outside the box that it really is dynamiting the box. Odds are, on your quest for enlightenment, you've tried all kinds of tools and techniques and strategies and read a ton of books. But the paths you discovered through all that effort, time, energy, and money invested ended up being dead ends. And I got to tell you, when I found this image, I just absolutely loved it. I don't know how they created it, but it's just so perfect, because if your experience is like mine, and it may have been different, again, you're going down a road, you're going down a path, you think you're getting somewhere, you think you're making progress, and then all of a sudden the road dead ends like this, and it's like, oh boy, now what? And the only option, if we take the dead end metaphor literally, is to turn around, go back the way you came, look for another road that can take you where you want to go. And this is so often what the spiritual path, the quest for enlightenment, is like. Or it's a quicksand pit. And I can't tell you how many times this is exactly how I perceived it. With quicksand, you're walking around, you see this sand, it appears to be solid, you think you can walk over it, so you start walking over it, and the next thing you know, you're sinking. And the natural impulse when you're sinking is to try to struggle, to try and get out of the quicksand, but the more you struggle, the more stuck you get. And ultimately, the only way out of a quicksand pit is for somebody else to reach you a hand or reach you a stick or something else that you can grab onto and pull yourself out. I can offer you that hand, I can offer you that stick if this is something that has been part of your experience, and again, it may not have, but it was for me. It's kind of like looking at this in another way. Dogs on the dog track. Now, in the foreground of the image you're looking at, it's a little bit blurry, but what it is a mechanical rabbit. And the way dog racing works, the dogs are trained to chase this mechanical rabbit. But no matter how fast they run, no matter how hard they try, no matter how bad they want it, no matter what they eat, no matter how strong they are, no matter what kind of a kennel they live in, they will never catch the rabbit, because the design of the sport is that it's always just out of reach. You're motivated to get it, you're hungry for it, you want it, but you never catch it. And that, again, is so often what the quest for enlightenment is like. Another way you could look at it is the whole old hamster on a wheel metaphor, although here we see obviously a human. But the key point here is run, 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 push, 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 effort, 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 but you don't actually go anywhere because the effort is just keeping you going in a circle. It can drive you crazy. And if your journey was like mine was, is like mine was, it does drive you crazy and has driven you crazy multiple times for these kinds of reasons. So here are some of the big questions now. How can you get off the wheel? How can you get off the track? How can you get out of a quicksand pit if you're in one and onto a road that really can take you where you want to go? Into the experience with a capital E called enlightenment. How do you actually do it? That's precisely what I'll share with you through this video series. When I was 46, as I mentioned, I had an extraordinary breakthrough. That breakthrough enabled me to see the truth of things, with capital T's, with expanding clarity. I began to see what enlightenment really was, what it really wasn't, why it remained so elusive to me and so many other people, and how to consistently experience the real thing. There's now an opportunity for you, a very real opportunity. To take advantage of that opportunity, however, you've got to make some big changes, as you might expect, in how you see yourself, in how you see the world, in how you see the relationship between yourself and the world, and in how you see the core cause, if you will, of everything that happens to you on a daily basis. I can open a gateway or a portal for you, as the image that you're looking at on your screen, which has become something of a logo for me, visually depicts into the experience with a capital E that you seek. In the next videos in the series, I'll show you what my big breakthrough was and how you can have your own big breakthrough too.